The 5 humans stood in the great waiting hall of Centaurus Station, their faces turned upward at the massive dome of swirling stars above them. Ambassador James Reed adjusted his formal blue uniform for the 10th time in an hour. After decades of preparation, humanity's moment had finally come. "Stop fidgeting, James," said Dr. Anna Reyes, the science advisor. "You're making us all nervous." Reed forced his hands to his sides. "Sorry. Hard to believe we're finally here, representing all of Earth." Captain Marcus Foster, their military escort, kept his eyes on the alien guards positioned around the chamber. "Just remember the plan. Be respectful, be confident, and don't show fear." The waiting hall was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Tall, slender aliens with blue skin spoke in musical tones. Bulky reptilian creatures surveyed the room with multiple eyes. Small hovering orbs of light pulsed in patterns near the ceiling. "Look at them all," whispered Lisa Chen, the cultural liaison. "Hundreds of species, living and working together. And today, we join them." The 5th member of their team, Technical Director Omar Patel, tapped notes into his handheld device. "Assuming they vote yes, the Council has rejected 17 species in the last century alone." Reed shook his head. "That won't happen to us. Earth has achieved every benchmark they set. Clean energy, unified government, peaceful colonies on Mars and Luna, and our warp drive technology is already compatible with Council standards." A chime sounded through the hall, and the massive doors at the far end slid open. A tall, thin alien with crystalline skin approached them. "The Luminar," Lisa whispered, "one of the founding Council species." The crystalline being bowed slightly. "The Council will now hear Earth's petition. Follow me." The 5 humans walked behind the Luminar through the grand doors into the Council chamber. The circular room stretched upward for what seemed like hundreds of meters, with seating arranged in rising tiers. Representatives from dozens of species watched as the humans entered. At the center of the room stood a circular platform. The Luminar gestured toward it. "Present your case there, humans." Reed took a deep breath and stepped onto the platform. A beam of light enveloped him, and his image was projected throughout the chamber. He began the speech he had practiced for months. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you representing the United Earth Government and all of humanity. For 2 centuries, we have watched the stars, knowing we were not alone. For decades, we have worked to meet your standards for admission. Today, we come before you as equals, ready to join this great community of species." Reed spoke for 20 minutes, detailing Earth's achievements, its peaceful unification after the resource wars, the environmental restoration projects, and the flourishing colonies across the solar system. He showed holographic images of Earth's cities, now green and sustainable, of the underwater habitats in Earth's oceans, and the magnificent domes of New Armstrong City on Luna. When he finished, there was silence. Then, from the highest tier, a being with dark, swirling skin that seemed to contain tiny stars spoke. "A Voidborn, one of the telepathic elder races. We have reviewed your submission, Ambassador Reed. We have studied your species extensively." Reed smiled. "Then you know we are ready to join the galactic community." The Voidborn's voice grew cold. "We know that humanity is dangerously unpredictable. Your history is stained with warfare and destruction. You claim peace, yet your military budgets remain substantial. You speak of unity, yet cultural divisions persist." Reed's smile faded. "With respect, every species has a troubled past. We have learned from ours and grown beyond it." A different council member, a being with 6 arms and insect-like features, raised a limb. "The human brain still contains primitive structures that trigger aggression. Your species reaches for the stars while still carrying the instincts of planet-bound predators." "That's not fair." Dr. Reyes stepped forward. "Our biology doesn't determine our destiny. We've proven that through centuries of progress." The chamber erupted in murmurs. The Luminar raised a crystalline hand. "The human delegate will respect council protocol. Only the designated ambassador may speak." Reed felt sweat forming on his brow. This wasn't going as planned. Council members, I ask that you judge us on our actions, not on theoretical concerns about our nature. The Voidborn spoke again. We have deliberated extensively before your arrival. The decision is made. A holographic display appeared above the chamber. Symbols representing each council species appeared, all glowing red. The council vote is unanimous. Earth's petition for membership is denied. Reed stood in shock. Unanimous. But we weren't even given a chance to address your concerns. The council's wisdom spans millennia. Human. We have seen species like yours before. The risks outweigh the benefits of your admission. Captain Foster stepped forward. This is outrageous. At least give us the courtesy of a proper hearing. Security drones moved closer to the human delegation. The Luminar's voice hardened. Earth is to remain isolated within its solar system. Limited trade with approved council worlds will continue under supervision. In time, perhaps centuries, your petition may be reconsidered. Reed struggled to maintain his composure. And if we don't accept these terms? The chamber darkened slightly. The Voidborn's star-flecked skin pulsed. Any unauthorized expansion beyond your system will be considered an act of aggression against the Council. We have the means to enforce our boundaries. Ambassador, do not test us. Within an hour, the human delegation was escorted back to their ship. As they departed Centaurus Station, they sat in stunned silence on the bridge, watching the massive structure shrink in the view screen. What do we do now? Lisa finally asked. Reed stared at the stars. We go home and tell our people the truth. The door to the galaxy has been slammed in our face. 3 days later, United Earth President Maria Torres stood before the Global Assembly in New Geneva. Billions watched the broadcast across Earth and its colonies. Today, I must share difficult news. The Galactic Council has denied our petition for membership. She paused as shocked murmurs swept through the assembly. They have ordered us to remain confined to our solar system, claiming our species is too unpredictable, too dangerous to join their community. Torres' expression hardened. But we will not accept their judgment as final. If the existing order of the galaxy has no place for humanity, then we will create our own place among the stars. The assembly erupted in cheers and applause. Today, I am authorizing the formation of the Pathfinder Initiative. Our best ships, our brightest minds, will venture beyond Council space to the unexplored regions they have deemed too dangerous to settle. We will forge our own path, make our own allies, and build our own future. Torres looked directly into the camera, her eyes burning with determination. The Council believes they have contained us. They are wrong. They have merely redirected us, and they will soon discover that humanity, when faced with a closed door, doesn't just knock louder. We build our own house. As the speech ended, Reed watched from the back of the hall. For the first time since leaving Centaurus Station, he smiled. The Council had made a critical mistake. They had given humanity something more powerful than acceptance. They had given them something to prove. 5 years after Earth's rejection from the Galactic Council, the deep space exploration vessel Pathfinder drifted silently at the edge of what the Council called the Dark Sectors. Commander Thomas Walker stood on the bridge, looking out at the swirling space anomalies that marked the boundary. Behind these strange energy formations lay vast regions of unexplored space, regions the Council races avoided. Status report, Walker said, his voice steady despite the tension on the bridge. Lieutenant Ben Morris checked his screens. All systems normal, Commander. The stealth systems are working perfectly. No sign of Council patrols. Walker nodded. Dr. Morgan, are you ready? Dr. Eliza Morgan looked up from her station, where complex equations flowed across multiple screens. Her eyes showed both excitement and doubt. As ready as we'll ever be, she said. The stabilizers should work in theory, but no one has ever tried to pass through these anomalies before. Walker walked to the center of the bridge. The Council thinks these anomalies are too dangerous to cross. They've used them as natural barriers to keep species contained. But today, we proved them wrong. He turned to the communications officer. Last message to Earth. Received and acknowledged, sir. President Torres sends her regards and says, make history. Walker took a deep breath. Helm, take us in, 1/4 power. Activate the Morgan stabilizers. The Pathfinder moved forward slowly. As they approached the swirling energy barrier, 4 large panels extended from the ship's hull. Blue energy flowed from the panels, reaching out toward the anomalies. Where the energies met, the chaotic patterns of the anomaly began to smooth and organize. It's working, Dr. Morgan said, her voice rising with excitement. The stabilizers are creating a path. The ship shuddered as it entered the anomaly. Lights flickered across the bridge. Warning alarms sounded briefly, then fell silent. Hull integrity holding, Morris reported. All systems functioning within normal parameters. For 3 tense minutes, the Pathfinder pushed through the energy barrier. The view screen showed only swirling patterns of light. Then, suddenly, the chaos cleared, and new stars spread out before them. We're through, Walker said quietly. Then louder, we're through. Navigation, confirm our position. The bridge erupted in cheers. Humans had just crossed a barrier that had stopped the Council races for thousands of years. Scanning nearby systems, the science officer announced. Commander, you're not going to believe this. We've got multiple habitable planets within range. The closest is just 2 days away at standard speed. Walker smiled. Set course. Let's see what the Council has been missing. 2 months later, Walker stood on the surface of a green, vibrant world that humanity had named New Dawn. Around him, prefabricated structures of the first human outpost beyond Council space were being assembled. The air was sweet and clean, filled with the sense of alien vegetation that remarkably resembled Earth's forests. Dr. Morgan approached, carrying a tablet. The soil tests came back perfect, she said. We can grow Earth crops here with minimal adaptation. And the local plants. Some contain compounds that could revolutionize medicine. Walker looked up at the blue-green sky where 3 small moons were visible even in daylight. A paradise, hidden behind a curtain of energy that scared away the Council for centuries. And not just this world, Morgan added. The survey teams have found 2 more habitable planets in nearby systems, and the minerals in the asteroid belts. We've detected elements the Council considers rare and precious. Walker's communicator beeped. Commander, you need to see this, came the urgent voice of Security Chief Alex Rivera. Walker and Morgan hurried to the outpost perimeter, where Rivera waited with a small team of security personnel. They were watching a clearing in the nearby forest. We detected movement, Rivera explained. At first we thought it was just local wildlife. But then, from the trees emerged a group of beings unlike any humans had seen before. They walked on 4 legs, with bodies covered in short blue fur. Their upper torsos were more humanoid, with 4 arms ending in delicate, 6-fingered hands. Their heads were elongated with large, gentle eyes. They'd been watching us for days, Rivera said. They just now decided to show themselves. Walker stepped forward slowly, hands raised to show he carried no weapons. First contact, he whispered. And the Council has no idea. The leader of the aliens mimicked Walker's gesture, raising 2 of its 4 hands. 6 months later, the human presence in the dark sectors had grown dramatically. New Dawn now hosted a thriving settlement of over 500 people. The native species, who called themselves the Nilari, had proven peaceful and curious. They possessed no space travel technology, but had a rich culture and advanced understanding of their world's ecosystem. More importantly, Dr. Morgan had made a breakthrough that changed everything. In a secure lab near the center of the settlement, she demonstrated her invention to Walker and a team from Earth. The Council monitors all standard faster-than-light communications, she explained. But by using principles we discovered studying the anomalies, we've created a completely new communication system. She activated a device on the table. A holographic display appeared, showing President Torres back on Earth. The signal is instantaneous, Morgan continued proudly, and completely undetectable by Council technology. We can coordinate our entire expansion without them knowing. Torres's image smiled. Excellent work, Dr. Morgan. Commander Walker, your reports have exceeded our highest hopes. The Council thought they could contain humanity within our solar system. Instead, they pushed us toward our greatest adventure. Walker nodded. And we're just getting started, Madam President. We've made contact with traders from the outer Council worlds. There are many species who resent Council restrictions. Some have already expressed interest in joining our settlement. Then proceed with the next phase, Torres said. Establish more outposts. Invite those who wish to join us. The Council created barriers meant to contain us, not realizing they were actually protecting the resources we would need to build something new. After the transmission ended, Walker walked to the window of the command center. In the distance, human engineers worked alongside Nilari builders, combining their knowledge to create structures that blended the best of both cultures. They banned us from their council, he said quietly, so we're building our own future. Morgan joined him at the window. And based on what we've seen so far, it might be better than anything they have. A week later, the first Council patrol ship discovered a human trading post near the edge of the dark sectors. When they attempted to shut it down by force, they discovered their weapons and engines mysteriously failed when faced with technology derived from the very anomalies they had feared for so long. The message was clear. Humanity would not be contained. Their path to the stars would not be blocked. Their empire was just beginning. 10 years had passed since humanity's first steps into the dark sectors. What began as a single outpost on New Dawn had grown into a network of 27 thriving colonies across 15 star systems. Admiral Thomas Walker, promoted from his former rank of commander, stood in the Grand Meeting Hall on New Dawn, now a bustling city of 30,000 humans and nearly as many aliens from various species. "They're ready for you, Admiral," said his aide, Lieutenant Emma Santos. Walker straightened his uniform and entered the circular chamber where representatives from 12 different species waited. Some faces were familiar. The blue-furred Nilari, the first aliens humans had encountered beyond the anomalies. Others were newer allies, the insect-like Kareth with their compound eyes and delicate wings, the bulky rock-skinned Trell, and the Forge units, mechanical beings who had broken free from their creators in Council space. "Friends," Walker began. 10 years ago, humans arrived here as explorers, rejected by the Galactic Council. Today, we gather as partners in the greatest opportunity of our lifetimes. He activated the holographic display in the center of the room, showing the mapped regions of the dark sectors. Blue dots represented established colonies, green showed resource-rich systems, and red marked the boundaries with Council space. "The Council believes they contained us," Walker continued. "Instead, they pushed us towards something remarkable. Together, we have built communities where each species contributes equally. We trade fairly. We share knowledge freely. We defend each other without question." The representative of the Kareth, a female named Varric, raised one of her 4 arms. "What exactly are you proposing, Admiral?" Walker smiled. "I propose we formalize what we've already built, a frontier alliance where all member species have equal voice regardless of their age, technology level, or population size. Unlike the Council, we will have no senior members who control the votes of others." Murmurs of approval spread through the chamber. The Council's strict hierarchy had long been a source of frustration for many species. "The humans offer this in good faith?" asked Gronth, the massive Trull representative. "Even though your technology currently leads our colonies in many areas." "Especially because of that," Walker answered. "Earth remembers what it feels like to be dismissed as too young or too unstable to have a voice. We won't repeat the Council's mistakes." A Forge unit stepped forward, its metal body gleaming under the chamber lights. "What will be our response if the Council discovers the full extent of our alliance? They have already attempted to disrupt our trading posts." Walker's expression grew more serious. We will defend our borders but avoid unnecessary conflict. Our goal isn't war with the Council, but to build something better beyond their reach." The discussions continued for hours, with representatives raising concerns, suggesting amendments, and finally reaching agreement. By the meeting's end, the Frontier Alliance was born, with its founding charter signed by representatives of all 12 species. 6 months after the Alliance's formation, Dr. Eliza Morgan led Walker through her newest laboratory on New Dawn. Now serving as the Alliance's chief science director, Morgan had assembled a team of researchers from every member species. "The results are better than we ever imagined," she explained excitedly. "By combining human adaptive thinking with Kareth biological engineering and Forge unit quantum computing, we've developed technologies the Council won't achieve for centuries." Walker looked at the various projects underway in the massive facility. Nilari botanists worked alongside human geneticists to develop crops that could thrive on multiple worlds. Trell engineers and Forge units collaborated on mining equipment that could operate in environments previously considered too hostile. "This is the real strength of the Alliance," Walker observed. "The Council keeps species separated in a hierarchy. We bring them together as equals." Morgan nodded. "And speaking of breakthroughs, there's something you need to see." She led him to a secure section of the lab where a team worked around a biological containment unit. Inside, microscopic organisms glowed with faint blue light. "3 days ago, we received a distress signal from the Peleus system. Council space," Morgan said. "They're suffering from a pandemic that has already killed millions. The Council's response has been tied up in bureaucracy for weeks while they debate the political implications of various medical interventions." Walker frowned. "What does this have to do with us?" One of our Kareth researchers recognized the disease description. Something similar affected their colony centuries ago. "With their biological knowledge and our advanced computing systems, we've synthesized a cure." She gestured to the glowing organisms. "These engineered phages will eliminate the pathogen without harming the host." Walker considered this information carefully. The Peleos system is well within Council territory. Sending aid would reveal much about our capabilities. It would also save millions of lives, Morgan countered, and show the galaxy what kind of neighbors we choose to be. 2 weeks later, a fleet of unmarked medical ships arrived in the Peleos system. They transmitted a simple message: "We bring medicine for your sick. No payment required. No political conditions attached." When questioned about their origins, the crews simply identified themselves as representatives of the Frontier Alliance. They delivered the cure, trained local medical teams in its use, and departed before Council military vessels could arrive to investigate. Within a month, the pandemic was contained. Word spread quickly through Council space about the mysterious alliance that had provided aid when the Council had only offered committees and deliberation. In his office on New Dawn, Walker received the reports with satisfaction. On his display screen, President Torres smiled from her office on Earth. The medical mission was a success on every level, Walker reported. Millions saved, and countless more now questioning Council propaganda about dangerous human expansion. Torres nodded. "And our other initiatives?" "The Alliance grows stronger each day," Walker replied. 3 more species have petitioned to join, including the Vexari, who previously had observer status on the Council, but were never granted full rights. "And our defenses?" Walker's expression grew more serious. "Our early warning systems show increased Council patrol activity near our borders. They're concerned, but still underestimate our capabilities. The Alliance Defense Fleet now includes ships from all member species, with integrated technologies that work seamlessly together." Torres leaned forward. "The Council rejected us because they feared what humanity might become. In pushing us away, they created exactly what they feared most, not just humans expanding through space, but humans bringing together others who were also overlooked and underestimated. There's a saying that's become popular in the colony worlds," Walker said with a slight smile. "Earth was banned from the Council, so they made their own empire. But what we're building isn't an empire in the old sense. There are no subjects, only partners. Torres nodded. Let's keep it that way, Admiral. That's our true strength, and the Council's greatest miscalculation. As the communication ended, Walker looked out his window at the bustling city below, where humans worked and lived alongside a dozen alien species. The Council had tried to isolate humanity from the galactic community. Instead, they had set it free to create a new one. 20 years after Earth's rejection, the Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. High Chancellor Vex of the Luminar pounded his crystalline fist against the speaking platform, sending shimmering ripples across his translucent skin. The human problem can no longer be ignored, he declared to the assembled representatives. What began as a minor irritant has grown into an existential threat to Council authority. Holographic displays around the chamber showed maps of the so-called Frontier Alliance territory. Over 200 star systems, spanning what had once been considered uninhabitable space. Trade routes connected Alliance worlds to the outer regions of Council space, and the influence of this upstart coalition grew daily. The humans were warned to remain in their home system, Vex continued. Instead, they have created an empire that now rivals our central worlds in industrial output. Worse, they spread dangerous ideas about equality between elder and younger species. A representative of the Voidborn, their skin containing swirling galaxies, rose to speak. Perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The Alliance provided aid during the Pelios pandemic when our response was delayed. Many Council worlds now view them favorably. Precisely why they must be contained now. Vex countered. They undermine our authority through these gestures. The Council has maintained galactic order for 10,000 years by ensuring proper hierarchy between species. The human notion that all voices deserve equal weight is dangerous chaos. After hours of heated debate, the Council voted. The decision was not unanimous, a rarity in Council proceedings, but the majority approved military action to contain the human-led rebellion and re-establish Council authority in the contested regions. On the Alliance border world of Threshold Point, Admiral Walker received the intelligence report with grim determination. The largest Council armada ever assembled was approaching Alliance space, over 200 warships with enough firepower to reduce entire planets to ash. In the command center of the Alliance Defense Station, representatives from each member species gathered around the strategic display. Walker studied the incoming Council fleet formation. They still think like conquerors, he observed. Their ships are positioned to maximize firepower against planetary targets, not for space combat with our fleet. Varric, now the Kareth High Commander, clicked her mandibles thoughtfully. The Council believes this show of force will cause our alliance to fracture. They expect the non-human members to abandon your leadership when faced with the Council's might. Walker nodded. That's been their mistake from the beginning. They see everything through the lens of dominance and submission. He turned to face the gathered representatives. I won't order anyone to fight. Each member world must decide for themselves. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Gronth, the massive Trell, stepped forward. The Trell remember 1,000 years under Council rule. We were allowed to mine our worlds for resources, but never to use those resources for our own advancement. The Alliance has given us 20 years of true partnership. We stand with humans. One by one, each representative pledged their support. The Forge units, the Nilari, the Kareth, and a dozen others, all chose to stand together. Walker activated the communication system. All Alliance vessels, this is Admiral Walker. The Council fleet will reach Threshold Point in 36 hours. Our mission is defensive only. I repeat, defensive only. We protect our borders, but do not seek to destroy our opponents. The Battle of Threshold Point began at dawn, as measured on New Dawn. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their massive dreadnoughts at the center surrounded by layers of supporting cruisers and fighters. Facing them was the combined Frontier Defense Fleet, ships of every shape and size, designed by different species, but integrated into a cohesive force. At the center was the Defiance, Admiral Walker's flagship, built with technology from all Alliance members. Walker stood on the bridge, watching the Council fleet approach on the main viewer. "Send the message," he ordered. The communications officer nodded. "Broadcasting on all frequencies, sir." Walker's voice transmitted to every Council vessel. "This is Admiral Thomas Walker of the Frontier Alliance. Your fleet has entered Sovereign Alliance space. We request you withdraw immediately to avoid unnecessary conflict. We have no desire for war with the Council." The response came from High Chancellor Vex himself, his crystalline face filling the view screen. "This is not sovereign space, human. These regions belong to the Council by historical right. Your illegal colonies will be dismantled, and your ships escorted back to your home system as originally decreed." Walker shook his head. "We built homes here. We made friends here. We created something new here. We will defend it." Vex's expression hardened. "Then you will face the consequences of your defiance." The Council fleet opened fire, thousands of energy weapons lighting up the blackness of space. But instead of striking Alliance ships, the beams encountered a defensive barrier unlike anything the Council had seen before, a modification of the same technology humans had developed to pass through the dark sector anomalies. "Stabilizer shields holding," reported the Forge Unit tactical officer. "Council weapons operating at 30% effectiveness." Walker nodded. "Execute defense pattern Alpha. Remember, disable, don't destroy." The Alliance fleet moved with unexpected coordination. Smaller ships darted between the massive Council vessels, firing precisely calibrated pulses that disrupted their targeting systems. Larger Alliance cruisers fired specialized weapons that disabled Council engines without breaching hulls. On the Council flagship, Vex watched in growing horror as his supposedly superior fleet was systematically immobilized. "Impossible," he whispered as another dreadnought lost power. 3 hours into the battle, over half the Council fleet hung powerless in space. Not a single ship had been destroyed, but they could neither fight nor flee. Walker opened a channel to all vessels. "Council ships, your vessels have been disabled but not damaged. Your life support remains operational. We will now begin rescue operations for any crew requiring medical assistance." Alliance medical ships moved among the disabled Council vessels, providing aid to injured crew members. The Council commanders, trained to expect either victory or death, were confused by this approach. On his flagship, Vex received reports of Alliance medics treating Council wounded with the same care as their own. "Why?" he demanded. "Why not destroy us while they have the advantage?" The Voidborn counselor beside him watched the rescue operations on the view screen. Perhaps because their goal was never conquest. They truly are building something different. The battle's outcome was broadcast across both Alliance and Council networks. Citizens throughout Council space watched as the supposedly dangerous Alliance forces saved the lives of their defeated opponents. Walker stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the rescue operations. Lieutenant Santos approached with a data tablet. "Sir, we're receiving signals from 17 worlds in Council space," she reported. "They're requesting information about joining the Alliance." Walker nodded, unsurprised. The Council tried to maintain control through fear and hierarchy. "We showed the galaxy another way is possible." As Alliance ships began towing disabled Council vessels to neutral space for repairs, Walker sent a final message to High Chancellor Vex. "We will continue to defend our borders, but we remain open to peaceful dialogue whenever the Council is ready. The future of the galaxy shouldn't be decided through force, but through cooperation." The Battle of Threshold Point was over. The confrontation the Council had planned for 20 years had lasted mere hours, and though they didn't yet realize it, the Council's defeat marked the beginning of their transformation. 25 years after Earth's rejection from the Galactic Council, Ambassador James Reed stepped carefully from his transport onto the landing platform of New Dawn's Grand Assembly building. At 78 years old, his hair had turned white, and his steps were slower, but his eyes remained sharp as they took in the magnificent structure before him. "Quite different from Centaurus Station, isn't it?" asked President Maria Torres, who had come personally to greet him. Though she had served as Earth's president for over 2 decades, she too had finally agreed to step down after this historic day. Reed smiled as he looked at the gleaming building. Unlike the imposing, hierarchical design of the council chamber, the Grand Assembly building was circular, with sweeping arches that connected the different sections rather than separating them. Representatives from over 100 species moved through the open corridors, their voices creating a symphony of languages. When they turned us away, I never imagined this would be the result, Reed admitted. I thought we had lost our chance to join the galactic community. Torres laughed softly. Instead, we built a better one. They walked together through the main entrance, where Admiral Walker waited to escort them to the inaugural session. Around them, the building buzzed with activity as the final preparations were made for the historic gathering. Is it true that council representatives are attending? Reed asked. Walker nodded. Yes, and not just as observers. After the Battle of Threshold Point, everything changed. The council's military enforcement branch was dissolved by vote of their own members. High Chancellor Vex was removed from power. The new leadership has requested formal diplomatic relations, and we agreed. Reed raised an eyebrow. With conditions, Torres replied. The new Galactic Assembly will replace both the Council and our alliance structures. Every species will have equal representation, regardless of their history or technology level. They entered the main chamber, a perfect circle with seats arranged in concentric rings, rather than the tiered hierarchy of the old council. At the center stood a platform with a simple podium, designed at a height accessible to species of various sizes. The chamber ceiling was a massive dome that showed the actual stars above New Dawn, a reminder of the vastness they all shared. It's time, Walker said, checking his timepiece. They're ready for you, Ambassador Reed. Reed straightened his formal diplomatic uniform, the same one he had worn 25 years ago on Centaurus Station, carefully preserved for this moment. Are you ready for this, James? Torres asked quietly. Reed nodded. I've been waiting 25 years to finish my speech. The chamber fell silent as Reed approached the central podium. Around him sat representatives from across the galaxy, members of the former Alliance, Independent Worlds, and yes, former Council species. Among them, he recognized the crystalline form of a luminar and the star-speckled skin of a voidborn, now seated as equals alongside humans, Nilari, Kareth, and dozens of others. 25 years ago, Reed began, his voice clear and strong despite his age. I stood before the Galactic Council seeking admission for humanity. I was told that we were too unpredictable, too dangerous to join the galactic community. He paused, looking around the chamber. They were right, but not in the way they thought. Humanity is unpredictable. We faced rejection and chose creation over resentment. We encountered barriers and found ways through them rather than submitting to them. We met new species and offered partnership instead of conquest. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The old council believed order came from control, from older species guiding younger ones, from maintaining traditions that had lasted for millennia. What we discovered in the dark sectors was that true strength comes from diversity, from the combining of different perspectives, from allowing each voice to contribute regardless of how long they've been among the stars. Reed gestured to the chamber around them. This galactic assembly represents a new approach, not a council that judges who is worthy, not an alliance formed in response to rejection, but a true union of all willing species, each with one vote, each with an equal voice. From the front row, a Luminar representative rose. Unlike High Chancellor Vex with his rigid posture, this Luminar's crystalline form flowed more freely, reflecting the light in gentler patterns. Ambassador Reed speaks wisdom, the Luminar said. For 10,000 years, my species helped lead the council, believing we were preserving order. We forgot that the greatest strengths come not from control but from adaptation, something humans reminded us of through their actions rather than their words. The Voidborn representative stood next. When we rejected Earth's petition, we believed we were protecting the galaxy from an unpredictable element. Instead, we pushed that element to create something that has ultimately strengthened us all. The Battle of Threshold Point showed us what we had become, and what we could be instead. One by one, representatives rose to speak. Those who had been part of the Alliance from its early days, those who had joined later, and former council members who had chosen this new path. As the session continued, Reed stepped back from the podium and rejoined Taurus and Walker. Not bad for a species that was told to stay in their solar system, Torres said with a smile. Reed watched the proceedings with satisfaction. Do you know what the most popular story is throughout the galaxy now? Earth was banned from the Council, so they made their own empire. It's told on hundreds of worlds, in countless languages. Walker shook his head. But what we built isn't an empire. Empires conquer. We connected. That's why the story is so powerful, Reed replied. It reminds everyone that rejection doesn't have to be the end. Sometimes it's just the beginning of a better path. As the day continued, the first official acts of the new Galactic Assembly were recorded. Trade agreements were standardized. Mutual defense pacts were signed. Scientific cooperation initiatives were launched. The barriers around the dark sectors were officially classified as protected transit routes rather than dangerous boundaries. That evening, Reed stood on the observation deck of the assembly building, looking up at the stars. A young Nilari approached, its 4 arms carrying a recording device. Ambassador Reed, the Nilari said respectfully, I am documenting the history of this day for future generations. May I ask you one question? Reed nodded. When humans were first rejected by the Council, did you ever imagine this outcome? Reed looked out at the city of New Dawn, where beings from hundreds of worlds now lived and worked together. In the distance, ships of diverse designs arrived and departed from the spaceport, carrying the news of the new Galactic Assembly to worlds throughout the galaxy. No, he admitted honestly. But that's the thing about humans. We're unpredictable. The Nilari's large eyes blinked in what Reed had come to recognize as their version of laughter. That, the young historian said, is exactly why the galaxy needed you. The small survey ship Prospector drifted through the purple clouds of the uncharted nebula. Its engines hummed softly as it moved deeper into the colorful gas clouds that most ships avoided. Commander Marcus Reed stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the main screen. Anything yet, Tom? Reed asked, rubbing his tired eyes. Thomas Reeves shook his head as he checked the sensor readings. Nothing valuable, Commander. Just more gas and dust. He tapped his screen with frustration. We've been searching for 3 weeks now. Maybe High Command was wrong about resources in this sector. Reed nodded but said nothing. Their mission was simple. Find new materials to help the war effort. Humanity needed metals, fuel, and anything else they could use against the Vex Imperium. For 30 years, humans had been losing ground to these aliens. Each year, the Vex took another colony, another mining station, another piece of human space. Wait, called Dr. Eliza Ward from her station. The engineer pointed at her screen. I'm getting an odd reading about 20,000 kilometers to our port side. More space junk? Reed asked. They have found plenty of that already. No. Ward adjusted her instruments. It's big. Really big, and it's giving off a faint energy signature. Put it on the main screen, Reed ordered. The screen flickered and zoomed in on a dark shape hidden within the nebula's gases. At first, it looked like an asteroid, but as the image cleared, everyone on the bridge fell silent. That's a ship, whispered Dr. James Miller, the team's xenobiologist. A human ship. Reed stared in disbelief. The vessel was massive, at least a kilometer long. Its dark hull was shaped like an arrow, with what looked like weapon ports along its sides. Though parts of it showed damage, the ship was largely intact. Run an identification scan, Reed ordered. Reeves worked quickly, his fingers flying over his console. Sir, this can't be right. According to the database, this ship matches the profile of the UES Thunderchild. That's impossible, Ward said. The Thunderchild was destroyed at the Battle of Proxima Centauri over 200 years ago. It's a legend. Reed had heard the stories. The Thunderchild was the pride of the first expansion fleet, humanity's most powerful warship, lost during humanity's first major space war. Some claimed it had weapons that could destroy whole fleets and armor that nothing could penetrate. Legend or not, that ship is there, Reed said. And if even half the stories are true, what we found could change everything. He turned to his crew. Prepare a boarding team. We're going to take a closer look. 2 hours later, Reed floated through the empty, dark halls of the massive ship with Ward, Reeves, and Miller. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that seemed to go on forever. Main power has been offline for centuries, Ward said, checking her scanner. But there's still a minimal energy signature coming from somewhere deep inside. Look at the size of these hallways, Miller said in awe. They built ships differently back then. Reeves ran his hand along a wall. The metal feels strange. Almost. Warm. Reed's communicator beeped. Commander, came the voice of Lieutenant Davis from the prospector. We're picking up 3 ships entering the nebula. Configuration matches Vex scout vessels. Reed cursed. Have they spotted us? Unknown, sir, but they're heading in your direction. Understood. Stand by for emergency extraction. Reed turned to his team. We need to move quickly. Let's find the bridge. They pushed deeper into the ship, following schematics that Reeves had pulled from the historical database. As they moved, Reed couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. After navigating through massive empty chambers and pitch-black corridors, they reached a sealed door with faded lettering. Command Bridge. This is it, Ward said, examining the door's control panel. It's locked, but I might be able to. A distant boom echoed through the ship, making them all freeze. What was that? Miller whispered. Reed's communicator crackled. Commander, the Vex ships have opened fire on the prospector. We're taking heavy damage. We can't. The transmission cut off. Davis? Davis. Reed called, but there was no answer. They found us, Reeves said grimly. The prospector is gone. We're stranded. Another explosion, closer this time, rocked the ship. They're boarding, Reed realized. We need to find somewhere to hide. Ward worked frantically on the door panel. Almost got it. There. The ancient door slid open with a hiss, revealing a massive circular room filled with control stations, all dark and silent. In the center stood a raised platform with what looked like a captain's chair. They rushed inside, and Reeves sealed the door behind them. We need weapons, a way to contact help, or a miracle, Reed said, scanning the bridge. Look for anything useful. Ward moved to what appeared to be the main console. Some of these systems might still work. Let me try to. She touched the console, and suddenly, faint blue lights began to glow across the bridge. A soft hum grew around them as dormant systems stirred to life. What did you do? Reed asked. Nothing. A holographic sphere appeared above the central platform, pulsing gently. When it spoke, its voice was deep and clear. Unauthorized personnel detected on command bridge, initiating security protocols. Miller stepped back. Is that an eye? Atlas defense system online. Ship status. Critical. Power levels. Minimal. Crew count. 0. Time since last active duty. 217 years, 43 days, 7 hours. Reed stepped forward. We're humans from the United Earth Fleet. We found your ship drifting. The blue sphere pulsed. Scanning. Human life signs confirmed. Current military identification recognized. Status of the First Expansion War. Reed looked at his companions in confusion. The First Expansion War ended over 2 centuries ago. The sphere dimmed for a moment. Processing historical data update. Current threat assessment required. We're being hunted by Vex troops, Reed explained. They destroyed our ship. They'll find us soon. Vex Imperium forces detected aboard this vessel. Atlas confirmed, initiating minimal defense protocols with available power. Throughout the ship, they heard systems powering up. Lights flickered on in the bridge, and screens came to life, showing different areas of the ship where dark figures moved swiftly through the corridors. What is this ship? Reed asked. The historical records say the UES Thunderchild was destroyed. This is indeed the United Earth ship Thunderchild, Atlas replied. Battle Dreadnought, Titan class. I am Atlas, the ship's command artificial intelligence. The Thunderchild was critically damaged, but not destroyed. Emergency protocols initiated a blind jump to prevent capture. After arrival in this nebula, all non-essential systems were shut down to preserve core functionality. A loud bang came from outside the bridge door. The Vex had found them. Can you help us? Reed asked desperately. Can this ship still fight? The blue sphere grew brighter. The Thunderchild was built for one purpose, Commander Reed, to protect humanity. With minimal power, I can activate basic defense systems. With your assistance, I can do more. Another bang, louder this time. The door wouldn't hold much longer. What do you need from us? Reed asked. Your authorization to awaken this ship, Atlas replied. To bring the Thunderchild back to war. Reed looked at his team, then back at the glowing sphere. Do it. The lights on the bridge grew brighter. Throughout the massive vessel, long dormant systems began to power up. The deck hummed beneath their feet. Thunderchild awakening protocols initiated, Atlas announced. And Commander, the stars will burn. The bridge of the Thunderchild hummed with increasing power as lights flickered on across the massive control room. Reed and his team watched in awe as ancient screens came to life, showing the status of the enormous ship. Warning, Atlas announced, its blue sphere pulsing with each word. Vex forces have breached Deck 7. Internal defense systems activating. On one of the screens, they watched as hidden panels in the ship's corridors slid open. Small turrets emerged and fired precise energy bursts at the alien intruders. The Vex soldiers scattered, clearly surprised by the sudden defense. Those weapons still work after 2 centuries. Reeves asked in disbelief. The Thunderchild was designed to endure, Atlas replied. However, current power levels are at 12% of capacity. Full combat capabilities cannot be restored without repairs. Another explosion shook the ship. Ward grabbed a console to steady herself. They're using heavy weapons, she warned. Even a ship this size can't take that kind of punishment forever. Reed studied the ship's layout on a nearby screen. Atlas, is there a way to get this ship moving? Can we escape? Main engines are offline, the AI responded. However, maneuvering thrusters have minimal functionality. With proper authorization, I can activate the emergency jump drive, but it requires significant power redirection. Reed nodded. Do it. What do you need from us? Dr. Ward must go to the engine control room to manually override safety protocols, Atlas explained, highlighting a path on one of the screens. Mr. Reeves will need to access the weapon control center to divert power from secondary weapon systems. Commander Reed and Dr. Miller should remain here to coordinate. Split up? Miller asked nervously. With those things hunting us, I will provide guidance and protection where possible, Atlas assured them. This is our only option for survival. Reed looked at his team. We don't have a choice. Ward, Reeves, be careful. Dr. Ward moved cautiously through the massive ship, following Atlas's directions through her communicator. The corridors were better lit now, but still full of shadows. Take the next left, Atlas instructed. The engine control room is 200 meters ahead. Atlas, Ward said as she walked. How did this ship survive? The history books say the Thunderchild was destroyed protecting civilian ships. That was the official report, Atlas replied. The truth is more complex. The Thunderchild was critically damaged in the battle. Captain Amelia Drake, knowing the ship would be captured, activated the experimental jump drive with no destination set. Her final order was, anywhere but here. She sacrificed herself, Ward realized. The entire crew did. The jump drive was untested. They knew the chances of survival were minimal. But they also knew the ship's technology could not fall into enemy hands. Ward reached a massive door marked Engine Control. It slid open as she approached. So the ship jumped here, to this nebula, she said, entering the room. And has been drifting ever since. Correct. With critical damage and minimal power, I placed all systems in dormancy to preserve core functionality. I have waited 217 years for human contact. The engine control room was enormous, filled with complex machinery that hummed with building energy. Ward approached the main console. What now? She asked. You must override the safety protocols, Atlas explained. The console will require DNA verification to confirm human authorization. Ward placed her hand on the scanner. A beam of light passed over it. Human DNA confirmed, Atlas announced. Safety protocols disengage. Engine power building. Meanwhile, Reeves made his way to the weapon control center. Unlike Ward, he hadn't been lucky enough to avoid the aliens. Twice he had to hide as Vex patrols passed by, their odd, clicking language echoing in the corridors. You're almost there, Atlas guided him. The weapon control center is just ahead. There are too many of them, Reeves whispered. How did they get a boarding party this large on the ship so quickly? Scans indicate they have brought a cruiser alongside the Thunderchild, Atlas replied. They are cutting through the hull in multiple locations. They're trying to take the ship, Reeves realized. They want its technology. That cannot be allowed, Atlas stated firmly. The weapons systems of the Thunderchild are beyond anything in the current human arsenal. If the Vex obtain them, humanity will face extinction. Reeves finally reached the weapon control center, a circular room with stations for what would have been dozens of weapons officers. Now it stood empty, with only the soft glow of reactivated screens. What do I do? He asked. Access the main terminal. I need you to manually reroute power from the secondary weapon arrays to the jump drive. Reeves worked quickly, following Atlas's instructions. As screens showed power levels shifting, a sudden alarm blared. Incoming Vex units, Atlas warned. 3 soldiers approaching your position. Reeves looked around desperately for a weapon, but found nothing. I can't fight 3 of them. You won't have to, Atlas replied. The door to the weapon control center sealed shut. I have locked down this section. Focus on your task. Reeves heard banging on the door as he worked. They'll break through eventually. Then we must be gone before that happens. On the bridge, Reed and Miller monitored the ship's status as power levels gradually increased. Ward and Reeves have successfully completed their tasks, Atlas reported. Jump drive power at 60%, sufficient for a short-range jump. How far can we go? Reed asked. Approximately 5 light years, enough to reach the edge of this nebula. Miller pointed at one of the screens. Commander, look at this. The screen showed the Vex cruiser attached to the Thunderchild like a parasite. More alien soldiers poured into the human ship. We need to go now, Reed decided. Atlas, can you seal off the sections they've breached? Cut them off from the rest of the ship. Affirmative. Bulkhead doors closing. Throughout the ship, massive doors slammed shut, trapping many of the Vex invaders. Those caught between sections found themselves facing the ship's internal defenses. Jump drive at 72% and rising, Atlas announced. Calculating jump coordinates. The ship shuddered as the Vex cruiser fired its weapons at the Thunderchild's hull. Can this ship take that kind of punishment? Miller asked nervously. The Thunderchild has survived worse, Atlas replied. However, our shields remain offline. initiating jump in 30 seconds. Reed watched as the countdown appeared on the main screen. What about Ward and Reeves? They're still out there. Internal transport system activated, Atlas said. In moments, the doors to the bridge slid open, and Ward and Reeves rushed in, looking relieved but exhausted. That was close, Ward said, catching her breath. The ship, it moved us here somehow. Emergency transport tubes, Atlas explained, for quick movement of officers during battle. The ship rocked violently as another blast hit the hull. Hull breach on Deck 12, Atlas reported. Jump drive at 94%. 10 seconds to jump. Reed looked at his team. 4 humans on a ship designed for thousands, about to take a 2-century-old vessel on its first jump in over 200 years. Everyone hold on to something, he ordered. The bridge filled with a blue glow as the jump drive engaged. Outside, space itself seemed to bend around the massive warship. Jump drive engaged, Atlas announced. The Thunderchild rises again. In a flash of brilliant light, the ancient battleship disappeared, leaving behind a very surprised Vex cruiser and its boarding parties, now trapped in sealed sections of a ship that was no longer there. The first step in the resurrection of humanity's greatest weapon had begun. A blinding flash lit up the bridge as the Thunderchild tore through space. The ancient jump drive hummed loudly, sending vibrations throughout the massive ship. Reed and his team clung to whatever they could grab as the vessel shuddered around them. Jump stabilizing, Atlas announced, its blue sphere pulsing steadily. Exiting hyperspace in 3, 2, 1. The flashing light faded, and the violent shaking stopped. On the main screen, stars appeared where before there had been only the purple gases of the nebula. Jump complete, Atlas reported. Current location, Sector 47B, approximately 4.7 light-years from previous position. Ward checked the nearest console. Power levels down to 23%. That jump took a lot out of the old girl. The jump drive was not meant to be used with such low power reserves, Atlas explained. Damage assessment underway. Reeves studied a star chart that had appeared on one of the screens. We're at the edge of chartered space. The nearest human outpost should be about 12 light-years from here. Can we make another jump? Reed asked. Not immediately, Atlas replied. The drive requires 6 hours to recharge under current power conditions. Miller pointed at a blinking alert on another screen. What's that? Long-range sensors have detected multiple ships approaching our position, Atlas said. Configuration matches Vex patrol vessels. Estimated arrival, 20 minutes. Reed frowned. How did they find us so quickly? The jump created a detectable energy signature, Atlas explained. And the Thunderchild is a large target. So we can't run, Reed said grimly. Can we fight? Primary weapon systems remain offline, Atlas reported. However, defensive capabilities can be brought online with the available power. What kind of defensive capabilities? Reeves asked. The Aegis Shield, Atlas replied. The Thunderchild's most advanced defense system. It was experimental technology, even at the time of this ship's construction. Ward looked up from her console. I studied old war records. The Aegis Shield was theoretical, a defensive system that could absorb enemy fire and convert it to usable energy. It is more than theoretical, Dr. Ward, Atlas said. It was successfully installed on this vessel, though never used in full combat conditions before the Battle of Proxima Centauri. Reed straightened his back. Can we use it now? Yes, but it will require manual activation from the shield control room, Atlas said. The automated systems were damaged in the ship's final battle. Where is this control room? Reed asked. Deck 17, Section C, Atlas replied, highlighting a location on the ship's schematic. Dr. Ward should go. Her engineering expertise will be needed. Reed nodded. Ward, you go activate the shield. Miller, see if you can access any data on Vex tactical patterns from the ship's archives. Reeves, keep working on restoring more systems. I'll stay here and coordinate with Atlas. As the team split up again, Reed turned to the eye's glowing blue sphere. Be honest with me, Atlas. What are our chances? The Thunderchild was the most powerful warship ever built by humanity, Commander. Atlas replied. Even at reduced capacity, we have advantages the Vex cannot anticipate. Dr. Ward hurried through the corridors of Deck 17, following Atlas's directions through her communicator. Unlike the clean, well-lit command areas, this part of the ship showed clear battle damage from centuries ago. Walls were scorched, and occasionally she had to climb over debris. The shield control room is just ahead. Atlas guided her. Vex vessels will arrive in 12 minutes. Ward reached a sealed door marked with a symbol she didn't recognize. This is it. Yes. Place your hand on the scanner for authorization. When Ward touched the panel, the door hissed open, revealing a circular room with a raised platform in the center. The platform held what looked like a control pillar with handprints marked on either side. What is this? She asked, approaching the pillar. The Aegis Shield's direct interface, Atlas explained. It was designed to link directly with a human operator in emergency situations. Link directly? Ward asked nervously. It will form a temporary neural connection, allowing you to shape the shield's energy through your thoughts. The process is not harmful, but it may be disorienting. Ward took a deep breath. Will it work? After all this time? The system has been in stasis, not shut down, Atlas replied. It should function as designed. With no other choice, Ward stepped onto the platform and placed her hands on the marked spots. Immediately, blue light flowed up her arms like liquid. She gasped as strange sensations flooded her mind. What's happening? She whispered. Neural link established, Atlas reported. The Aegis shield is now online and under your control, Dr. Ward. On the bridge, Reed watched as the main screen showed 5 Vex warships approaching. They were sleek, predatory-looking vessels, each armed with weapons that could tear apart normal human ships. They'll be in firing range in 2 minutes, Reed reported. Miller looked up from his console. Commander, I found something in the archives. Tactical data on early Vex encounters. Information we thought was lost when their homeworld was destroyed. Can it help us now? Reed asked. Maybe. According to this, Vex ships have a weakness at their engine exhaust ports. Their shields are thinnest there. Not much use without weapons, Reeves muttered. The ship's comm system activated. Commander, Ward's voice came through, sounding strange and distant. The shield is online. I can feel it. It's like nothing I've ever experienced. Vex ships charging weapons, Reeves warned. Atlas, can we hail them? Reed asked. Buy some time. Communications are functional, but inadvisable, Atlas replied. Vex protocol is to open fire on human vessels without warning. As if to confirm this, bright beams of energy shot from the lead Vex ship, striking the Thunderchild's hull. Instead of the expected explosion, the point of impact glowed blue. Energy seemed to flow across the ship's surface like water. Shield holding, Atlas reported. Energy absorption at 12% and rising. More Vex ships fired, their weapons hitting the Thunderchild from different angles. Each impact created the same flowing blue energy across the ship's hull. Dr. Ward, status. Reed called. It's incredible. Ward responded, her voice filled with wonder. I can feel their attacks. The shield is turning their energy against them. Power levels rising to 30. Now 35%. Reed couldn't believe what he was seeing. The more the Vex fired, the stronger the Thunderchild became. They're moving to surround us, Reeves reported. Let them come, Reed said with growing confidence. Atlas, are any weapon systems available now? Point defense turrets can be brought online with current power levels, Atlas replied. Do it. Small turrets emerged from hidden ports along the Thunderchild's hull. They fired precise energy pulses at the closest Vex ship, targeting the area Miller had identified. The alien vessel shuddered as the blasts pierced its weakened shields. "Direct hit," Reeves exclaimed. The damaged Vex ship tried to pull away, but more turrets tracked it, firing continuously at its vulnerable point. Suddenly, the alien vessel exploded in a ball of blue fire. The remaining Vex ships stopped firing and began to retreat. "They're running," Miller said in disbelief. "The Thunderchild was a legend for a reason," Atlas stated. "And now, the Vex have rediscovered why." Ward returned to the bridge, looking exhausted but exhilarated. "The shield is stable. Power levels at 42% and holding." Reed looked at his small crew with pride. "Good work, everyone. But this is just the beginning. The Vex will be back, and in greater numbers. Then we better be ready," Reeves said. Reed nodded. "Atlas, plot a course for the nearest human outpost. It's time to bring the Thunderchild home." The Thunderchild moved slowly through space, its massive engines running at only half power. 3 days had passed since their encounter with the Vex patrol ships. With each passing hour, the ancient battleship recovered more of its strength as systems came back online and power levels increased. On the bridge, Reed studied the star chart displayed on the main screen. "How much longer until we reach Epsilon Outpost?" he asked. "Approximately 6 hours at current speed," Atlas replied, its blue sphere hovering steadily above the command platform. "The outpost's defense grid will detect us when we are 2 hours out. And they won't be happy to see us," Reeves added from his station. "An unidentified ship this size will put them on high alert." Reed nodded. Epsilon Outpost was humanity's furthest military installation, a defensive platform guarding the approach to the inner colonies. Any unknown vessel approaching it would be treated as a threat. "We'll need to contact them before we get too close," Reed said. "Atlas, can you broadcast on current military frequencies?" "Yes, Commander." Communication systems are now at 76% functionality. Miller entered the bridge, carrying a small device. Over the past days, the xenobiologist had been exploring the vast ship, discovering its secrets. "Commander, I think you should see this." He placed the device on a console, and a holographic display appeared above it. "I found this in the science lab on Deck 9. It's a complete tactical database of Vex fleet movements from the first expansion era." Reed's eyes widened. This data was lost when the Proxima Centauri archives were destroyed. "Not lost," Miller said excitedly. "Just hidden here on the Thunderchild. And there's more. Look at this comparison." The hologram shifted to show 2 ship designs side by side, one clearly Vex, the other human. "The propulsion systems are nearly identical," Ward said, joining them at the console. "How is that possible?" "The Vex didn't develop their technology on their own," Miller explained. "They reverse-engineered it from captured human ships, including systems similar to the Thunderchild's." Reed stared at the display. "So all this time, we've been fighting against our own technology." "More advanced versions of it," Miller nodded. "But now we have the original designs. We can find their weaknesses because they're built on our own work." "This information could change everything," Reed said. "Atlas, how much of your weapon systems are now operational?" "Primary weapon arrays at 54% capacity," the AI reported. "Secondary defense systems at 68%. The Aegis shield is fully functional thanks to Dr. Ward's calibrations." Reed turned to his small crew. "We're bringing back more than just a legendary ship. We're bringing back the knowledge humanity needs to win this war." 2 hours from Epsilon Outpost, the Thunderchild was spotted by long-range sensors. Immediately, alarms sounded throughout the human facility. Admiral Laura Bennett stood in the outpost's command center, watching as technicians tracked the approaching vessel. "What do you mean you can't identify it?" she demanded of her sensor officer. "Something that size should be in our database. It's not matching any known configuration." "Admiral," the officer replied nervously. It's huge, at least a kilometer long." "Vex?" Bennett asked. No, ma'am. The design appears human, but older somehow. A communications officer called out, Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the vessel. Put it through, Bennett ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing Reed's face. Epsilon Outpost. This is Commander Marcus Reed of the United Earth Fleet. Authorization code Sierra Tango 217. Bennett stepped forward. Commander Reed, your survey ship was reported missing 3 weeks ago. My original ship was destroyed, Admiral, Reed replied. But we found something else. He stepped back, allowing the camera to show more of the Thunderchild's bridge. We're aboard the UES Thunderchild. A stunned silence fell over the command center. That's impossible, Bennett finally said. The Thunderchild was lost 2 centuries ago. Not lost, Admiral. Just waiting to be found. Request permission to dock for repairs and crew transfer. Bennett hesitated, then nodded to her officers. Prepare a security team and clear docking bay 1. If this is some kind of trick. The Thunderchild dwarfed the outpost as it approached. Workers and soldiers gathered at viewports to watch the legendary ship's arrival. Many took pictures with their personal devices, and soon news of the vessel's return spread across human communications networks. When Reed and his team stepped off the ship, they were met by Admiral Bennett and 24 armed guards. I apologize for the welcome, Bennett said, eyeing them cautiously. But you understand our concern. I do, Reed replied. If you'd like to come aboard and see for yourself, Admiral, I think you'll find it answers most of your questions. Bennett followed Reed into the Thunderchild, her security team close behind. As they walked through the massive corridors, the Admiral's expression shifted from suspicion to awe. This is really it, she whispered. The Thunderchild. My grandfather used to tell me stories. When they reached the bridge, Atlas greeted them, its blue sphere materializing above the command platform. Welcome aboard, Admiral Bennett. I am Atlas, the ship's artificial intelligence. Bennett approached the hologram cautiously. How has this ship survived all these years? As Atlas explained the Thunderchild's history, engineers from the outpost began examining the vessel's systems. Word of the ship's return traveled quickly, and within hours, the highest levels of Earth Command knew of the discovery. High Command is sending a battle group to escort you to Earth, Bennett told Reed later that day. They're calling this the most significant discovery in 50 years of war. Reed nodded. The ship is important, but what's inside it may be even more valuable. He showed her the tactical data Miller had found. The Thunderchild isn't just a weapon. It's the key to understanding Vex technology. This could change everything, Bennett said, examining the data. There's something else you should know, Reed added. Atlas will only accept commands from me and my team. It's part of the ship's security protocols. It won't recognize any authority but ours. Bennett frowned. That could be a problem. High Command will want control of the ship. They can try. Atlas's voice came from nearby. But the Thunderchild was designed with safeguards against forcible commandeering. Captain Drake's final orders were explicit. The ship chooses its crew. Bennett looked between Reed and the AI's hologram. This will cause complications. Perhaps, Reed agreed. But right now, we have a bigger problem. Long-range sensors detected a large Vex fleet massing near the New Terra colony. They're preparing for a major assault. New Terra has minimal defenses, Bennett said gravely. If it falls, the Vex will have a clear path to Earth. Reed looked around at the bridge of the mighty warship. Then perhaps it's time for the Thunderchild to return to battle. Your crew consists of 4 people, Bennett pointed out. You can't operate a ship this size in combat. We've managed so far, Reed replied. But you're right. We'll need help. He turned to the Admiral. Can you provide experienced officers? Bennett thought for a moment, then nodded. I can give you a skeleton crew, my best people. Good, Reed said. Atlas, set course for New Terra. It's time for the Vex to learn that humanity has remembered how to bite back. The Thunderchild moved through space with renewed purpose, its engines glowing bright blue against the darkness. The ancient battleship was no longer alone. 6 human warships surrounded it, forming a protective escort as they approached the New Terra colony. On the bridge, Reed sat in the captain's chair, watching the main screen with steady eyes. Around him, the bridge buzzed with activity. Admiral Bennett had provided 30 experienced officers to help operate the massive vessel, though Reed and his original team maintained key positions. New Terra defense perimeter in range, Reeves reported from the tactical station. Colony sensors have detected us. Open a channel, Reed ordered. The screen changed to show the face of General Mark Wilson, commander of New Terra's defense force. His expression was grim. Admiral Bennett informed me you were coming, Commander Reed, Wilson said. I hope that old ship has more than just stories to offer. The Vex fleet will arrive in less than 3 hours. How many ships? Reed asked. 47 at last count. 3 times the size of our defense fleet. Reed nodded. The Thunderchild will hold the center of your formation. Have your ships follow our lead. Wilson looked skeptical, but nodded. We'll take all the help we can get, even from ghosts. When the transmission ended, Ward approached Reed. Our power levels are at 89%. It's not perfect, but it's the best we can do without a proper refit. It will have to be enough, Reed replied. Atlas, what's the status of the Prometheus array? The AI's blue sphere appeared beside him. The Prometheus array is operational at 76% capacity. However, I must remind you that this weapon system was never field-tested. What exactly is the Prometheus array? Bennett asked. She had insisted on joining them for the battle. Miller answered from his science station. According to the ship's database, it's a network of artificially created gravitational lenses. Theoretically, it can capture and redirect energy, even stellar energy. In simpler terms, Reed explained, it can turn the enemy's weapons against them, on a massive scale. Bennett's eyes widened. And this technology has existed for 2 centuries. It was too dangerous, Atlas said. After the Battle of Proxima Centauri, all research into such weapons was abandoned. The Thunderchild contains the only working prototype. Reed stood and addressed the bridge crew. I won't lie to you. We're outnumbered and facing an enemy that has defeated humanity at every turn for 30 years. But this ship was built to change the course of wars. Today, we'll see if it still can. 3 hours later, the Vex fleet arrived. The alien armada emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal predators. Their ships were sleek and deadly, arranged in attack formation around a massive central vessel, the Vex command ship. They're twice the size we expected. Wilson's voice came through the comm system. His ships formed a defensive line in front of the colony. Hold position. Reed ordered calmly. Let them come to us. The Thunderchild floated at the center of the human formation, its kilometer-long hull dwarfing even the largest human warships. For several minutes, nothing happened as the 2 fleets faced each other across the void. They're scanning us, Miller reported, paying special attention to the Thunderchild. They're trying to figure out what we are, Reed said. Suddenly, the Vex ships began to move. Their formation split into 3 attack groups, moving to surround the human fleet. They're trying to flank us, Reed warned. Let them, Reed replied. Atlas, activate the Aegis shield. Full coverage. Shield activated, Atlas confirmed. A blue glow spread across the Thunderchild's hull, gradually extending outward to encompass the nearby human ships. What are you doing? Bennett asked. Sharing our protection, Reed explained. The shield can extend to cover nearby vessels. On the battlefield, the Vex fired first. Hundreds of energy beams struck the blue shield surrounding the human ships. Instead of explosions, the points of impact glowed brightly as the shield absorbed the energy. Shield holding, Ward reported, power levels rising with each hit. Return fire, Reed ordered. The Thunderchild's weapon ports opened, revealing rows of energy cannons that had remained hidden for centuries. They fired in perfect synchronization, each blast striking with precision at the weak points Miller had identified in the Vex ship's designs. 3 Vex vessels exploded immediately. Their shields, designed to stop modern human weapons, proved useless against the ancient technology they were based on. The Vex responded by intensifying their attack, focusing all fire on the Thunderchild. The shield glowed brighter with each